Welcome to this edition of the Museum Roadshow. I'm Roger Engstrom, a retired Becker County dairy farmer who grew up around these thrash machines. And we're out here at the Tom and Charlene Ron Rudin farm, which is north of Frazee. And they have some thrash machines in their yard that they use for lawn ornaments. And they do a real nice job here keeping things up, as you can see. And last time when we talked about thrashing, we were measuring yields by using this sack. And when we planted the wheat in the spring, we planted one sack of wheat like this, 120 pounds to a football field. When we come back with this thrash machine, we're hoping we have a good year. And the Lord has been good to us and blessed our crop, and we're going to get at least 10 sacks like this back of wheat for every sack that we planted. Now we've progressed forward to 1995, 2000. We'd expected about 25 to 30 sacks of wheat like this off that same football field. Now these thrash machines, this particular machine here was built, we think about in the 1920s. This is a machine built by Case Company. There's a worn out Case emblem here that you can't read, but I noticed up here there's a Case emblem, so I know it's a Case machine. This is what was called the 28-inch machine. That's because the 20 cylinder on it is 28 inches wide. The big machines of that era were anywhere from 40 to 44 inches cylinders on them, and they had to have a big steam engine to power them. And we do have some pictures here of the big steam engines. Carl Johnson from Lake Park has his big steam engine up at Rolog where it's operating. We also have a present-day Becker County farmer, Andrew and Lyle Austin. They have a Minneapolis machine that we have pictures of, and these machines both operate at the Western Minnesota Steam Thrashers reunion at Rolog each year over Labor Day weekend. And when a machine like this showed up in the yard, particularly if it was a large machine that was powered by a steam engine, and these were pretty much used up until the mid-1920s, it took a tremendous crew to keep these going. This particular machine here, it would take from 6 to 8 bundle teams to feed it. It would take one guy loading bundles. Another guy called a spike pitcher would be helping pitch bundles into this feeder. Then it would take one guy up on top of the separator to be watching over things to make sure that everything was running properly. Occasionally he'd reach down and he'd tighten one of these grease cups up, hoping he didn't get his fingers or shirt sleeve in the belt. They'd have on a steam engine, you had to have an engineer, fireman, and also somebody to haul water. And then you needed a couple guys probably tending grain to haul the grain away. So it could easily take a crew of 15 people to keep one of these thrashing machines going. A typical day would start at about 8 o'clock in the morning. You got to remember now, that's before we ever thought of daylight saving time. And they would stop briefly for noon, forenoon lunch around 10 o'clock maybe. Pretty much eat lunch and work at the same time. But everything stopped at noon for dinner. And they'd go in the house for dinner. They'd have mashed potatoes and gravy, probably chicken and beef, meat, homemade bread with butter, vegetables from the garden, a real smorgasbord, and of course they had to have pie for dessert. And after dinner they fired this stuff back up. They'd get a forenoon lunch that was equally as big as or afternoon lunch that was equally as big as forenoon lunch. And the quitting time would be maybe 7 o'clock in the evening, or when it got so dark they couldn't see what they were doing. Typically these thrash machines were used up until 1950. Case quit building thrash machines. By 1951, Case had built 550,000 thrash machines. They had built more thrash machines than any other company in the United States or in the world. They were the Thrasher King. And the combine was starting to come in, and the thing that made the combine really come in faster was World War II, because the labor force to keep one of these thrash machines going was called into the armed forces of our country. And custom combining got started about that time. There was a guy that wrote a story about going down to Altus, Oklahoma in 1944. There were 300 combines down there. And he could have a combine, but he had to agree to combine 2,000 acres of grain on his way home. He got home to North Dakota sometime in August or early September, he'd left home the middle of May. And the modern day combine works very much like this thrash machine did. There have been some major changes. And we have a picture here that shows two modern day John Deere combines. You can hardly see the one for the dust. They're combining wheat on a field. And these combines can accomplish in a matter of just a few hours what it took a large crew of men days to accomplish. And they can do the job just as well as these thrash machines did. The thing that makes these machines work is the skill of the operator. A good operator with this thrash machine can do just as good a job as the guy with the combine. Thanks for joining us today on the Museum Roadshow.